Well, Republican leaders finally speaking out to criticize former President Donald Trump and cast doubt on his chances for re-election in 2024. It comes just a week after Trump met with white supremacist and known anti-Semite Nick Fuentes and rapper Kanye West. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell saying that there's no room in the Republican Party for anyone meeting or advocating with people who are known for anti-Semitism and white supremacy. McConnell going on to say that Trump is also unlikely to be elected president of the United States again. But House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy speaking out as well, saying that while Trump can meet with whoever he wants, he doesn't think anyone should have a meeting with Nick Fuentes. Let's take a listen.
First, let me just say that there is no room in the Republican Party for anti-Semitism or white supremacy. And anyone meeting with people advocating that point of view, in my judgment, are highly unlikely to ever be elected president of the United States.
Let's bring in I-24 News senior correspondent Owen Alterman joining me live in studio this morning. Owen, what does this mean for the GOP come 2024? Trump just announced his bid for re-election, his 2024 campaign, just a couple of weeks ago. But what does it mean now?
Well, listen, obviously there's two ways of looking at it. One way, Hamda, is that we've seen the movie before, right? Donald Trump doing something that's controversial, that seems to be over the line, figures in the Republican establishment coming and pushing back against him, including saying he's not going to be elected, only for it to pass, for Trump to show political strength, move on, and essentially quiet the Republican critics. We've seen that over and over again ever since Trump came down the escalator 7+ years ago. On the other hand, the argument for believing that this time it might be different is that Trump is weaker politically than he's ever been, right? After the disappointment of the midterm elections, after Trump losing the election in 2020, after polls showing that many Republican primary voters are looking for someone else and are not necessarily behind Donald Trump, even with his universal name recognition, means that there might be more space for the critics to actually win the argument and to have a kind of momentum to be able to stay on the field and be playing against Donald Trump. And there also is more and more of a critical mass of figures in the Republican establishment who are going further than they have in the past, whether that be former Vice President Mike Pence, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. We just heard Mitch McConnell, though in his case, certainly not for the first time. And also now joined by Jewish Republicans, right? Elon Carr, the former special envoy against anti-Semitism, David Friedman, the former ambassador to Israel, hardcore Jewish allies of Donald Trump now joining, so maybe a critical mass of the Republican establishment. A weaker Donald Trump may be meaning that in this case, the Republican establishment has a fighting chance of actually beating Trump back. Obviously, we don't know the outcome, but those are the two ways of looking at it and the two arguments for how this could turn out. In a sense, Hamda, American Jews are spectators to all of this, right? It's a civil war in the Republican Party where American Jews are simply a prop in the fight and obviously have a lot at stake in the outcome in terms of how much anti-Semitism comes more towards the mainstream of American politics. So again, American Jews will be watching, I think, in a sense, from the sidelines, and Israel even more so.
Let's talk about Trump not being able to backtrack his meeting with Nick Fuentes, saying that he didn't know who he was, he didn't have any knowledge, but the former president does have a lot of aides. He still has a lot of people working for him, and it was reported that Nick Fuentes was able to get into Mar-a-Lago without showing an ID because he was with a driver that was a frequent visitor. Well, will the former president, you think, can we expect any comment from him about denouncing white supremacy and anti-Semitism from this meeting?
Well, listen, Fox News has reported that Trump came out and said that if he knew what Fuentes' views were, it would have been a very short meeting. As you know, Hamid, as you just mentioned, there are reasons to believe that Trump knew or should have known who Fuentes was, or that he or his team should have done due diligence and therefore are on the hook for this. Be that all as it may, again, I think the main question is what's going to be the outcome of this fight within the Republican Party. Again, reasons to believe that Trump might win if the past is any guide, but also maybe reasons to believe that the past is not a guide, that this time really is different, that there's a critical mass, a weaker Donald Trump, and therefore the Republican establishment might have an advantage.